On this week's episode, we celebrate a Japanese icon. We take a look at the American adaptation, and we have a chuckle at the derpy Chinese knockoffs. Hey guys, so I thought I'd take a break this week from the regular what did I buy type thing and showing off the week's trade-ins. I thought instead I'd show you some of the Godzilla, Kaiju and what other not type of stuff that I have dug out from the collection that was traded in over a year ago now. There's gaps appearing in the cabinets behind me and in the cabinets upstairs as well. So I thought maybe it's time to dust off some of these collectibles and fill those gaps. Now, one of the biggest selling lines for me from this collection so far has been the soft vinyl figures. And this is literally how they came. They never came boxed, they just came with a tag attached, and they'd have literally been hanging by that tag from the shelf or from the prong, the arm in the shops, and obviously not over here or in the States so to speak, but mostly just in Japan. And there were two main sizes for this kind of collection. There were these 6-inch ones, and for those of you who 6 inches just wasn't enough, there were the 8-inch ones. And fair enough, back in the 60s and 70s when they started making these, they were quite full of character and wonderful colours, but they weren't quite as detailed as what they are now. Now they come very, very well detailed. But they don't stop at 8-inch. For those of you that can handle the bigger boy, they also do the 12-inch ones. So these two are actually out of the cabinets. I just got them out as examples. You've got Godzilla there from his first appearance, 1954 in Godzilla. And then, is this one Final Wars? Yeah, Godzilla 2005, Final Wars. This chap is one that I did dig out from the boxes and tubs upstairs. And this chap is so big that his tail comes in 1, 2, 3 pieces. And he's a well-detailed piece. And look at those dorsal plates on him. And that angry face that he's got. Which one's this? This 2000? It's 2000. So that's the Millennium Godzilla. Quite literally called that as well, was the film Godzilla 2000 Millennium. And another item that I picked out was this box set. I thought this was quite cool. This one's got much smaller ones. These are about 4 inches tall, are these ones, and you get 6 in there. You get one from the 54 movie, the King Kong versus Godzilla, 1962. 64's Godzilla versus Mothra. Or was it Mothra against Godzilla? 1984's Return of Godzilla. And 95's Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. And Godzilla 2000 is in there as well. Yes, he is. And you'd be surprised at just how different they all are. Now, as I said, most of them didn't come boxed. Obviously, when they do a gift pack like that, it has to come boxed. I'm not sure, actually, about a big one like this, whether or not this would have come boxed. Because if it wasn't boxed, then you're likely to lose the tail pieces, aren't you? So I imagine that might have come boxed at some point, but that one doesn't have one. But there were some that came boxed. For example, this guy here, he comes in a box, which is right there. And then there's also this guy, who comes in a box. How awesome does he look? Hey? How cool is that? The toy looks far better than the box. Normally, I'm always really keen on the Japanese boxes, but this one's a little lacking colour, shall we say. And it is just a photo of the toy as well, instead of some really cool artwork. But yeah, so there were exceptions, but again, this one will have come boxed because the wings come off. You have to heat them up to be able to put them into the sockets. So he's cool, but he's not, strangely enough, he's not from a Godzilla film. No, he's from one of the 90s films, 1998, I think. Mothra had her own series of films. They had a trilogy in the late 90s, well, mid to late 90s, and it was called The Rebirth of Mothra, and this is from The Rebirth of Mothra 3.
空から恐怖の大魔王が降りてくる。1億3000万年前は恐竜だった。でも今度はモスラだ。キングギドラを倒す方法が一つだけ。モスラは過去へ行くと言っています。
1億3000万年の時を超え恐竜の世界へ飛び立つモスラ、そしてついに明かされるエリアス3姉妹の秘密。
私たちエリアス族を最後に守ってくれるという秘密の力。
モスラ、キングギドラ、守護神伝説は最大のクライマックスへ。
こうなったら私たちが戦うしかないよ。剣をきっと役に立ちますから。モル
子供たちの未来を守るため、今モスラに最後の奇跡が起こる。最強の敵、最後の変身。新モスラ3部作完結編、モスラ3キングギドラ来週。12月12日東欧系公開。前売り券を買うと特製クリアファイルプレゼント。
It is King Ghidorah, but I believe in this particular version is called Grand King Ghidorah. Don't know what makes him so grand apart from the fact that it looks bloody awesome. Yeah, we like that bad boy. I would have been tempted to keep that if he would have fit in any of my cabinets at home, but he's not going to do with that wingspan and that massive tail and head sticking forward. It'd take up an entire shelf on his own. Anyway, not all of the toys, of course, were soft vinyl. There were others as well. And here's a pretty cool example. Comes boxed by Bandai, articulated from Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Now, where's that on and off switch? There it is. How cool is that? So it has light up eyes and mouth, which I dare say is just one bulb. And he makes noises. How does he make those noises? There is a button, but my thumb's nowhere near it. And his chest does open up, which then causes him to make different noises. How cool's that? And the armaments do come off as well. They just clip on and clip off. But yeah, pretty cool. But there was a follow-up film to this one. There was Godzilla Tokyo SOS or something it was called, which saw the return of Mechagodzilla here. And it was very much the same, but was slightly different. He got quite badly beaten up in that first film and had to be repaired to make him fit for duty for the second film. But yeah, as you can see, it's very similar. I think the batteries may have faded on this one because I realised after having it turned on for 2 hours that I'd left it turned on. But it still works. Probably just needs some fresh batteries. They're not as vibrant as that. Well, there's 2 buttons on this. No. There we go. Similar kind of thing. It does have different sound effects to this one. As you can tell. Probably had different sounds in the films. I just assumed that they would have been the same, but no, different sound chips. We're going to turn them off this time. Now, they did do a corresponding Godzilla to go with this. It's not easy to get into the battery compartment. And I found that even when you've been dealing with toys and treating them quite preciously for a good couple of decades now, more actually, probably closer to 3 decades now, I can still break them. I broke a Godzilla. I'll show you. So this is the bad boy. There's your Godzilla. Complete in box. This was brought out for the 50th anniversary, and it was to go with the first of those 2 Mechagodzillas that I just shown you. To go with or go against? Anyway, the battery compartment is just in there, and you have to remove the tail to get into it. Now, there's a big thing with the vinyl Godzillas, because often they ship the tail loose from the figure, and the idea is that you heat them up, either hot water or a hairdryer. You heat up the plastic to soften it to be able to put it in. But that's soft vinyl figures. This one it's got like a rubbery body over a skeleton, and that's quite hard. You see, very hard. So I thought it'd be different. I didn't think it'd be the same kind of thing. Oh, was I wrong? See, this white thing holds the tail on, and the instructions show you to pull the tail up like that to take it off. I tried doing that. I tried, and I ended up breaking the battery cover off, and it's the area where the screws, the smaller hole for the screw, just broke. So now it doesn't stay on. Yeah, it goes to show that there's still things to be learnt for a toy dealer. I'm going to look and see if there's a way that I can fix that. I think it could be a pretty simple fix, but we'll see when I get there. Now, I can't show him with the tail on because if I try putting the tail on, it'll just drop off. But it still works. It works very well. And he makes destroying sounds. What is it you do with the hands? That's right. Don't know what he does then. That's awesome. Turn him off as well now. Now, I do think that this isn't an isolated incident with the tail, because like I showed you, there were two different Mechagodzillas, and they came in similar packaging, following on from one film to the other. The same should have been said for this Godzilla, and I do have the one for the second film. This one's from the first. Second film, he has a big scar on his chest due to damage he takes from Mechagodzilla, and that one has no electronics in it whatsoever. It's essentially a vinyl figure in a box. So I wonder whether or not there were a lot of problems reported with this tail and they didn't want to replicate it for the second outing. I like to think it's not just me. Now this next one is pretty cool. It's actually based on one of my favourite versions of Godzilla himself. And there you are. Now that is one big box. That's bloody enormous, is that? And it's a remote control DX. I don't know what's DX about it. Godzilla. It's from, let me get this right, Godzilla, Mothra and King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All Out Attack, I think is the name of the film. It's a bit of a mouthful. Normally gets shrunk down, abbreviated to GMK, Godzilla, Mothra and King Ghidorah. And there he is. And one of the things I like about this particular Godzilla is just pure white eyes. They're almost like they're almost like a Funko Pop in the fact that they are completely soulless. There's no emotion there in that guy at all. I say that, but he always comes across as the most evil version of Godzilla. And there's a particular scene in this film where he's approaching a hospital and they hear the tremors, the vibrations, the loud footsteps. She sees Godzilla approaching and there's the ceiling's crumbling and they're terrified because Godzilla's about to just tear straight through them. But then at the last second, Godzilla alters course and he misses them and they breathe a huge sigh of relief. And you as the audience breathe a huge sigh of relief. And then he's passed. And then he decides to take the hospital out anyway by whacking it with his tail. And everybody inside just dies. I absolutely love that. I think it's brilliant. It's something that... was it an afterthought? Were they planning on doing that from the start? Or was it just an afterthought? I don't know, but I thought it was fantastic. Anyway, this guy, like I say, he is remote control, but it's one of those infrared remote controls. So they're not the most responsive, shall we say. Oh, it's being left on. That's me again, isn't it? Or is it? Is it me or is it? Oh, there's some life in the old boy yet. Yeah, he doesn't move very fast at all. But it's not the movement that's cool, it's the, well, it really needs to roar. It's a non-sound making one though, unfortunately. It really is missing that roar, isn't it? How cool would that be if it was roaring? So what it seems to do, and I'm not 100% sure of this because I can't read the instructions, is it seems one button does the whole movement of the top half there. Another button just moves, or does it move it the other way around? I'm not sure. And then one of them just moves the head. Yeah, just opening and closing. But then the final button, because there's 4 on there, seems to play back the moves that you've just caused it to do. I think that's quite interesting. Very cool. I like that. A big part of any collecting hobby is actual hobbying. And yeah, of course that means model kits. You know, taking something that comes unassembled and assembling it. And Godzilla, being a Japanese property, of course has some fantastic Japanese model kits. This one's a relatively small one, but there's loads of big ones as well. Obviously these come in tiny little pieces, you cut them off, you build them up and you paint it. And we love our model kits, don't we? They didn't just do Godzilla, they also did his wonderful colourful enemies. This one's actually in gold plastic as well. But there's loads and loads of Godzilla model kits out there. This one is probably the most famous one, being the old Aurora one. Now I dare say this one's a reproduction. It's been built, but it's had the glow-in-the-dark pieces left exposed, so you get to see the wonderful glow-in-the-dark aspect it offers. Billiken did a huge range of Godzilla model kits as well, some of the better ones to be fair. And X Plus also did some fantastic ones. Polar Lights keep reissuing theirs, so it keeps being readily available. But then you also get garage kits, totally unofficial ones that are there one day and gone the next. But then there's also the great big 6 foot long one that you could get back in the day as well. Now these model kits I've got here to show you are all by a company called Billiken. And yeah, it's not the easiest word to read either on their logo. And they come in these plain brown boxes with just a printed piece of paper glued on the front. And the boxes are often quite strangely designed. Don't know why, but they are. But I'm sure you know what a model kit looks like when you get it. You get bits of something. And you have to cut the pieces off the sprues and stick them together. And that is a partial, I don't think it even is partially built, but it looks like a partially built one. And that's how they come out of the box. This one's from Godzilla versus Mothra, apparently. Or Godzilla against Mothra. Got to try and pack this up right again now, haven't I?
3 hours later.
There we are. So if this one was a before, and this one is most certainly an after. There we go. So again, another Billiken one. And this one is from King Kong versus Godzilla. And I should have been able to tell that just by looking at his face. He's got a very unique looking face. This is what they look like once you've built them and painted them. And yes, this has been painted, and it seems it was never sprayed with a protective coating afterwards because it's still quite tacky. And this will have been painted a lot of years ago. Maybe the paint's gone like this over years, I don't know. But it was fun. It was certainly fun trying to clean this off of dust and that had landed on it and stuck to it over the years. But a fantastic job's been done to it. It's really, really good, is that? Really good indeed. So that's what they look like afterwards. Now sometimes model kits come pre-painted, and again by Billiken. We've got another one here, everyone's favourite tokusatsu, or is it? Jet Jaguar we've got here, and he can be changed. He's still got some articulation, so he's got some articulation in his arms. His head turns a little bit, but that's so he can be put into his infamous flying pose, of course. Although I don't know how you'd pose that. I'm not just going to lay it down, are you, like that? So he needs to be stood up. But yeah, this one came pre-painted from the factory. And that's probably so it could have these lovely, bright, vibrant colours. And the only assembling you really had to do was put them two pieces together. Which, credit to the collector, he hasn't glued them together. He's left them separate so that it's still in original condition. Yeah, he's a pretty cool looking guy, that one. Now, obviously, over the years, Godzilla collecting hasn't been limited to toys. It's also ventured out into many, many other branches of collecting. And here is an example of that. A great big massive ceramic money box. Now, I know for a fact this has never been used because it's that quite thin ceramic, and had you been dropping coins regularly through that mouth all the way down to there, and then all the weight of the coins as it builds up over the years, this would have broke. There's no way this was made to last at all. But just look at him, he's a right fat monkey, look at that! Look at the state of him. He's made to hold a lot of coins. I just don't have confidence in the fact that he could. He's got a fantastic smile on him, hasn't he? And this is actually, it looks to me a little bit knockoff-ish. It doesn't look official, but it is indeed an official product. 1997 Toho. It doesn't have a manufacturer's name on there, it just says Toho Eiger. I don't know who Eiger is. I have tried looking it up and I can't find this, so it's another one of those things, isn't it? But he's cool, he's very, very cool. And here's another example of a money bank. Now this is a soft vinyl one, much like the soft vinyl figures I showed you earlier. But it is a money bank. There's your hole that you'd empty it from and the slot that you'll put the coins in by. This would be far more useful as a money bank than this chap. It's a reasonable size and it's not going to break with the coins, from the weight of the coins. But yeah, there's quite a few different variations of coin banks like this. Probably as many as there are different variations of Godzilla himself. and his kaiju adversaries. There's another ceramic item here that I wanted to show you, because again, it's one that I just think is pretty fantastic. And it's a ceramic mug, and it's Space Godzilla. The mug itself is made up of the crystals that come out of Space Godzilla's back. And that's another official product by Banpresto from 1996. Now, everything I've shown you so far has been a Japanese product. Everything that you've just looked at is authentic Japanese Godzilla from his homeland, so to speak. But in the mid-90s, Trendmasters took the license on and produced quite a big line of Godzilla toys in the States. Well, they were probably made in China, but they were made for the States and for the Western market. Now, a lot of what I had has sold. There's a great big Mothra that's gone, and lots of other things. Mechagodzilla, King Ghidorah, loads of cool stuff. Unfortunately, has already gone. But there were some more in this in these last few boxes that I've opened up. In fact, there was one box full of just them. Now, the first line that they did, or the first one that I'm aware of that they did, was Godzilla King of the Monsters. And oh my god, they certainly did adapt it, didn't they? Rodan looks like he's been on steroids. He's all horned up, you'll pardon the phrase. Let's get you a Rodan to look at to see what he should look like. So this is essentially what he should look like. He's just a big pterosaur. Great big pterodactyl type creature. You see, there's no horns sticking out of him. The only spiky bits are his talons and his claws. And by comparison, this is America's interpretation of Rodan. He's got spikes all over his guts, let alone his back and his head. What a cool toy though. What a cool toy. Now, they did a range of these larger ones, but they also did a range of around about 6 inches and then a range of 4 inches. Your 4-inch ones looked a lot like this. So these came as like battle packs, so you get your classic monsters apparently. You get Godzilla versus Mecha King Ghidorah, Godzilla versus Batra, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and I dare say that there were others. Godzilla versus normal King Ghidorah versus Mothra, and maybe there was a Godzilla versus Godzilla, being that many different versions. Out of the packet they looked a little bit like this. This one's slightly bigger. I think this one's one of the more 6-inch scale ones. Fortunately, batteries aren't working in this one at the moment. Or I haven't got any in it, I don't know. It's about a year since I checked. Yeah, that's what they look like. If I can move those out of the way. So that was the first line, Godzilla King of the Monsters. They then went on to do Godzilla Wars. Now, all these toys have been taken out of the boxes. They're meant to be played with. And they're made, I'll hands up, this is another one that broke. They're made out of very, very brittle plastic. Very brittle plastic. And his wings, which are here, the wings themselves are not broken, but the prongs that hold them in to his back have broken. and they break off on the inside of the figure. And I have unscrewed him to see whether or not I can put him back together, but it's not going to happen. So it's going to be a case of a bit of blue tack on them to hold them in place inside there. You could glue them in place, but then you won't be able to pose them, which is a shame. And also, his electrics don't work. He's supposed to roar and make a noise, but sadly, he doesn't. It's a very rare toy to find, probably even rarer for the fact that they always break. And there's no reason why it should have broken, because I weren't doing anything with it that you shouldn't. You know, it's just the fact that the plastic now is so brittle it can't stand up to having the movements that it's designed to have. Another really, really popular one, Biolante. In a sense, this is Godzilla's sister. It's made from his DNA. This one does work. And has quite a unique roar. You done? These ones come with like a rubber bendy type snaky arm mouth things. What a cool looking monster that is. But again, a very Americanized version of it. So they're the 6-inch ones. They also did some awesome 12-inch ones. 12-inch? 10-inch? 10-inch, I think. Oh. And there's Gigan. Look at those colours! Now, admittedly, these colours are not that far away from the original 70s version of Gigan. He was green, and he did have gold on him, but he wasn't anything like this. This is wicked. This is absolutely cool. I love the vibrancy of that blue as well. It just works so well with him. But again, it's not like the Kaiju version, the original version from Japan. They certainly did do their own versions of these creatures, of these monsters. Again, very difficult to find, especially with a box. But my absolute favourite from this entire line has to be this one. Space Godzilla. And he's not in the box at the moment because with his tail on, there's no way he'll fit in the box. But there he is. Again, what's going on with those outstanding colours? They are so trippy. It's almost like the Predator's looking at him. Look at that. That's thermal vision from the Predator, is that? But that's amazing. Again, I'm facing the trouble of I really want to take this home with me. I really, really want to keep this one. But I've got nowhere to put him because of that great big bloody tail sticking out of him. Unless I just display him without the tail. But this is one I really, really do want to keep. Now, when I dug him out of the box, he did have some damage. His crown on top of his head was broke off, and I was concerned it was missing. Turned up in the box, wrapped up in plastic, so obviously the guy who I bought this collection off, he tried his best to keep it safe. I've now glued it in place, and it's, you can see it's very well attached. That ain't coming off unless you pull it off. And one of these horns, see these little white horns either side of his face? One of them was missing. It was broken off and missing, unfortunately. Now I think I've done a cracking job of fixing it. It's the top one out of those two there. And all I've done is I've used a Lego horn of some kind. They do like a curled, slightly curved Lego horn. Cut it down ever so slightly and glued it in place. Now, maybe it could have done with just a little more cutting off it, but I'm happy with that. I think that's quite a decent job. I mean, try finding one of these at all, let alone undamaged, let alone boxed. I can live with that, and I'm fairly sure that most collectors would put up with it just to be able to have one. So yeah, he's a pretty cool beast. Very, very cool beast. And obviously, the extension of that, the Godzilla Wars, that's this line, as I said, was the second line. They were also doing a third line, which was called Doom Island. And Doom Island was one of those where it was all planned, it was ready to go, and it never fully went into production. Now, there's some stores that did get some of the stuff which had been made ready for when it released, but it never officially released, so I think it was clearance stores that managed to pick them up and sell them, and strangely enough, they seem to be more common over here in the UK than they ever were in the States. And I do have an example of some of those hidden away upstairs, but I can't get to them at the moment. But the ones I've got, the idea was it's Godzilla and all the kaiju trapped on Doom Island, which is also full of dinosaurs. So it's all your kaiju monsters versus dinosaurs. And the packs I've got, you get a Godzilla against a few dinosaurs, a Mecha Godzilla against a few dinosaurs, and I think it's King Ghidorah against a few dinosaurs again. So yeah, that they're hiding away upstairs. I can't get to those at the moment. Sorry about that. But because of how rare they are, I decided to keep hold of them and not sell them. Good evening. We've interrupted your regular scheduled viewing to bring you this rather disturbing report. Earlier today, reports were flooding in of sightings of an unknown creature off the east coast of the United Kingdom. Later in the day, similar sightings were reported in the River Calder. It has now come to our attention that Godzilla is roaming through Dewsbury. This is not a report I ever expected to be making. The giant creature has obliterated Sainsbury's, Asda, and is now making its way through the town. We advise everyone, no, we urge everyone to leave Dewsbury as fast as possible. Excuse me. It now seems that Godzilla has changed direction and he is heading directly for... I'm sorry, could you say that again? Godzilla is heading directly towards CTN Studios. He will probably be here in a few moments. This is likely the last broadcast from the studio. We hope we've served you well, and that someone comes to replace us to serve you well in the future. But obviously, the next big thing for Trendmasters with the failure, not the failure, but the lack of releasing Doom Island, was the Godzilla 98 American movie. They went hard in on that. It was almost like a Star Wars film. You know, if there could be merch for it, there was merch made for it. It was one of those kind of events. It was a Jurassic Park event. It was a Star Wars event. And Trendmasters did most of the toys. You got your film. You got your novelisation. You get your junior novelisation. Kids tie-in books. Annual. Making of. Of course, you've got to have merchandise. And what's the best merchandise? Toys. Of course, it's the toys. And boy, did they throw out lots and lots and lots of toys. You had baby Godzillas galore. Mummy or Daddy Godzilla. You had the unwanted human characters, of course, because they have to do that, don't they? You got the vehicles. You got the bigger vehicles. You got electronic Godzillas. You got remote control Godzillas. Bigger Godzillas. Inflatable Godzillas. You got great big puppets. They did smaller ones too, but I don't have them to hand right now. And of course, you got the regular merch, lunch boxes, and then there's some merch that they just shouldn't really do. Welly bobs. Got handheld games. Of course, there was an album. Hell, there was even a single released from the film. And the film itself spawned a spin-off animated series. Now, there was a line of toys developed for these as well, but they never made it into production due to poor sales of the other Godzilla toys. That said, one or two prototypes did happen to make it out of the factory. Right, so we've had a look at the proper Japanese Godzilla stuff. We've had a look at the American macho Godzilla stuff. How about a look at some of the Chinese bootlegs? Now, I've got this one. I've had this before in, well, from this same collection. It came out of one of the boxes last year. Whereas this one's sort of like a brown and red. The other one I had was like a black and yellow. These are by Dorme, is it? Yeah, Dorme. But these are actually vintage, they're 1986. And I happen to have two of these at the moment. There's this sort of like normal looking one. And this dumb, derpy looking one. I actually wish that I had that black and yellow one still, but I did sell that one. I'd like to put all three of them together and take a picture of them, because it strikes me very much as the three hyenas from The Lion King. You know, where you get two sort of like normal ones and then a goofball one. That's him. It's only now that I put them side by side I see that these are actually two different molds. But yet, yeah, they're both by Dorme. This one's 86, this one's 97. So they've strange that they update the mold, but yet keep the same colour scheme. So there's those two guys, and then there's also this. Now we've established that the best thing that these can be made out of are like soft vinyl. This is rubber. Actually, rubber. I like how it even has a label that says it's Godzilla. It's really heavy as well. Really, really heavy when you compare it to some of the other stuff. But yeah, these are just rubber. They are hollow. And they're made the same way that the other soft vinyls would be made. But they made him in green. They also made a burning version. I believe it's supposed to be a burning version, but it's just bright orange. I think it looks cool in orange. Which is your favourite? The green or the orange? I suppose there's only one way to find out. No, we're not going to do that. I'm not breaking my Godzillas. So yeah, that's all I've got pulled out to show you today, I think. Yeah, that's everything that I've pulled out to show you. It's going to take me a little while to get all these priced up and ready for sale. But it is what it is. And that's your lot for this week, everyone. Sorry that this one ran a bit longer than normal, and thanks so much for staying with me till the end, if you have done. If you liked what you saw, then remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps with that pesky YouTube algorithm. If you want to support the channel, then the best way to do that is by heading over to my Patreon and joining the Cosmic Crusaders there. But you can also support Cosmic Toys simply by buying from us in-store or at www.cosmictoys.co.uk. Okay, with all that out of the way, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye!